It was, I felt it was very different from any of the race that I ever did. Whereas it was extremely hard, but it was never hard to the point that I would go into desperation mode, because it was hard for a reason, you know. I always knew why I was out there, and I would always enjoy why I was. The fact that it's such magnificent landscapes, such a beautiful country, I always felt like I was where I was supposed to be, even when it was real hard, even when I was suffering. I would always find justification in just the beauty that was surrounding me, and everything that I was witnessing, and the vastness and the emptiness of all these places, which is exactly what I look for when I ride my bike. I knew coming here it would be something very special, and it really turned out to be as special as I expected. I do this for a reason. I do this to be alone on my bike and to push the limits, and to feel like I'm just I just have these huge, beautiful places all to myself, and 90% of the time that's exactly how I felt. So it's a race that I always thought would be perfect for me, and it definitely was. It's always hard to say which is harder. Some of these races that I've done, as soon as they were over, I was like, okay, I'm never doing this again. But this one is like, I finished and I knew I was gonna come back, and I know I'm gonna come back. In terms of, weather, altitude, terrain, road surface, just hiker bikes, it's probably the race that throws in the more difficulties over a longest course, you know. Some of the races are a bit longer, but they don't have as many hiker bikes, and they don't have like the general broken, really rough roads that you always have here. Here the road is like never good. You always have to fight it. So I would say it's in a way it could be the hardest race in the world, but for me, I think it's much harder to not enjoy a race, you know? Whereas this one, I was enjoying it all the time. Sometimes you just go on a race and it's not what you came for, and it's not what you like, and it's just mentally tough to keep going because you're not having fun. But this time I was always having fun, so I would say maybe physically it's a really hard race, but mentally I don't know, once it's over, once you cross that finish line, it's like you're only left with good memories. You forget all the bad stuff. I think it was probably 250 kilometers. It was dark. I was going down. It was quite steep, and I was going quite fast, and a car passed me, and it was a very dusty road, and when passing me, the car created a cloud of dust, which meant that I couldn't see anymore, and I started braking, but it was too late. Actually, there was a big rock in the middle of the road that I hadn't seen, and I hit the rock like almost at full speed, full downhill speed, and I get ejected off the bike and landed on my side, my elbow, my leg, but it's nothing. I just got back on the bike and kept going. Yeah, just scratches. I started fast. I knew I was lighter. I knew I was the one that was carrying the least kit and gear, and I knew I was in good shape and I could climb. So yeah, I just started fast, and immediately I think I got to the top of the first pass, and already, yeah, I think most of the riders were already pretty far behind after the first 50k. But yeah, that's what I was trying to do. I was just trying to get going and be first from all the way from the start to the finish. Yeah, so that's what I tried to do. I tried to start fast, not stop really at least possible amount of time, especially during the first 2 days, and then open up a gap and just, if I can, just open up even a bigger gap during the following days, and if I can, just to try to hold on to this gap. But that is definitely my strategy, to start fast and just race ahead. That's where I like to be when I race. I like to be in front. I don't enjoy chasing other people. I'd rather be chased than chasing someone. I think after CP2, so CP2 was Kelsu, go up that old Soviet road, which was hard, but it was only 45 minutes, so it's really no big deal. Then you get down, and then you get back to that long, straight road that just goes up a little bit. But it was dark for me at that time, and the road was quite good at first, and then it was really washboarded and full of rocks, and then there was a lot of river crossings. They were usually dry, but they would slow you down still. You had to go around. It was really rocky, and it was getting really cold for me, and just yeah. And then you have to, at some point when you get to the end of that road, you have to take a right, because you have to go to Tashrobat Pass, and there it was dark, it was night, and I couldn't find any trail. I was just riding on the bushes. There was nothing. There was no trail. I couldn't find any trail, and I spent, I don't know how many hours just trying to find, a line to navigate between these low bushes and the grass, and then you had some river crossings, and it was just a very long night for me. I guess when you do it during the day, it's really not that big a deal. You just ride it. But the fact that I was kind of hoping that from CP2 I would be able to go straight to Tashrabat and sleep there. And so I was kind of putting pressure on myself and trying to ride fast. And then I would see that my speed was not enough, and I would try to go faster, but I couldn't because the road was broken. And yeah, it was just a mix of things. And that's usually the case in these races, is that for someone, one section is gonna be okay, and for you it's just gonna be hell.
And you got your mechanical problem, right?
On that
just
night.
Right there.
Yes, right, on that night. Yeah, exactly. So it made it even worse, actually. That I had to. I mean, it would have been a tough night without the mechanical, but it was even worse, being worried about the wheel and stuff. That, yeah, it was a really long night, and I didn't get any sleep because there was no shelter at all. It was getting really high, like 3,500, 3,600. So it was not like super cold. It was like -2, -3. But I don't like to sleep without a shelter, and I just wanted to keep going. I felt tired, but I didn't feel sleepy. So it was a long night where I just kept going without sleep, just trying to make it to Tashrabad, and yeah, then yeah, day came and I hadn't slept, and it was too late to sleep, and I just kept walking, and got up Tashrabad and then down.
Was it spoke broken?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah.
How did you find those people with car?
So I managed to get all the way to Tashrabad, and there's I think 3 or 4 yurt camps there, and before the race I had stayed in Tashrabad in one yurt camp, so I just went back there, had breakfast, talked with the lady there, and asked if she could get me a taxi to Tashrabad. So she called some people that she knew, and then drove me to Atbashi. Basically, if I can find a hotel, I will stay in a hotel. If I cannot find a hotel, but I can find an abandoned house or any kind of shelter, I will sleep there. And if I can't find neither a hotel or an old house, I will just keep going. I didn't use the baby. I just used the sleeping bag. Yeah. Like if it starts raining and I can't find a shelter, that's where I would have used the baby. But like if I can keep going, but say for example I'm riding, starts raining, and I get really cold and I can't keep going because I'm freezing, that's when I would stop, get in the bivvy, get in the sleeping bag, and just try to get warm. But it's really a matter of having a shelter for emergency. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna use it. I'd rather sleep in indoors, in hotels, and in any sort of shelter, a hidden house, or whatever. But I don't like to sleep outside. It's a guest house, and the old lady is really nice. And I get there really late. It was pouring with rain. As soon as I got to Tamga, there was a thunderstorm and it started pouring with rain. And I was looking for a place to stay. And I tried 1 and I tried 2, and I couldn't get in there. And then I found the Tamga guest house, and I called. And this old lady came out, and she saw that I was completely wet, and she got me into the kitchen, get me some tea, some chicken stock, and some biscuits. And she was really nice. She was a really cute old lady. I think it was day 3. Riding towards Arabel, in that really big, empty, lonely valley along the river. I think it was my favorite. It's hard to pick. I really like the climb to Songkul and then riding around the lake, but that day it was raining, so definitely not my favorite kind of weather. So yeah, probably I would say I also really like the climbing up Tosor Pass. That was a nice climb, but then afterwards I didn't really like the downhill, and it was beautiful, but I had a headwind. So yeah, I think day 3 in that valley. So it was after yeah, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I think that was my favorite. This is an alloy bikepacking specific mountain bike by Bomb Track with rigid carbon fork. I have 29er carbon wheels with Sun dynamo hub. Lineas 225s Fleecer Reach tires. So with the Sun dynamo hub, which I use with the Supernova E3 front light, that is really bright. For the braking, I chose to use Shimano XT hydraulic brakes with 180mm rotors for more stopping power. I have 1x10 Shimano XT group set with 34 in the front and 1142 in the back. I'm using Misgrade bikepacking bags. This one is custom. This one and this one is stock. This one is bolt-on, as I have the bolts, the bosses on the frame. Of course, using my gyro bars. Very important to rest my hands and my back. Here's my bivvy that I didn't use. Here's my mattress, inflatable mattress that I use 3 times. For my tail light, I have the Supernova that goes with the front one. As far as my GPS goes, I have the Karoo too. Because the roads are really rough, and especially the downhills, like for example the first downhill, the downhill from Tosor, the downhill from Kyrgyzstan, the last downhill, they're usually really rough with big rocks. It's just not comfortable enough with the rigid fork. I think it's definitely terrain that asks for a suspension fork, just to make sure that you are able to relax in the downhills, and you definitely would go faster because you wouldn't absorb as much shock when going down. Well, the thing is, you have to understand that when you ride 250 kilometers a day, that's a lot of shock. You can imagine a different setup if you would ride half that distance, you know. When you finish in 8 days, it's not like when you finish in 14 days. You don't ride as much, so you don't suffer as much. You don't have the same amounts of shocks, because you don't, like for example, I can do 3 big downhills in one day, whereas someone who would ride I would say half the distance that I ride every day, well, is going to do 1. He's going to do 2 maximum. So it's just that the more you ride every day and the more comfort you need. I mean, you can definitely do it with the rigid. You can do it with gravel bike. It's just that if you want to do it fast, if you want to do it and stay on the bike for 20 hours a day, I definitely say that you'd need a suspension fork and maybe a full suspension bike, because then it's just gonna be more relaxing for you, and the comfort. What we always say is that comfort's speed. The bike in itself is not especially light, but yeah, I don't carry as much as the racers, so I end up with just a general lighter setup. Okay. But the bike might be a bit heavier than other bikes. It's not an obligation at all. The way that I work with brands is very organic, you know. I don't have to do stuff. What I do is, you know, they ask me, are you willing to answer a few questions? Could you maybe do this? Could you maybe do that? If I have time, I will do it, and then usually I do it, but it's not, I don't have like obligations. And for example, when I write a blog post, it's more to, you know, be in touch with my community rather than just promoting my sponsors and their products. It's just that this is my way of expressing myself. It's something that I'm comfortable doing, and it's a medium that I like because Instagram right now is the major social network that you use to interact with the community in cycling and in bikepacking. But the problem with Instagram is that you can't really go deep in the stories, in the thoughts, in some of the more complex train of thoughts that you have. So I have this blog so that I can, whenever I feel like it, whenever I feel like I have something to say that could interest maybe not as many people as the picture on Instagram, but maybe a few hundred people will read what I have to say, and they can relate, and they get to know me, they get to know the athlete a bit more in a more complex way, and just go beyond a few pictures on Instagram that you can post anytime. It's not that I feel the need to do it, it's just that when I started doing it, I noticed that people were actually interested. They want to read this kind of stuff. They want to know what's happening in the races, what's happening in the travels, and like, it came really slowly over the course of 5 years, but I became a public figure, and I became someone that has a voice in the backpacking community. And when it happens, you can either do two things. You can ignore it and just be like, alright, people want to follow me, whatever. If they want to, they can. But I'm not here to open up to them. Or you can be like, alright, now that I am a figure in this community, now that people are interested in what I have to say, I may as well step up and fill in this role of just saying what I think, try and inspire people to ride their bikes more, to ride their bikes further, for longer. It's just that you need to understand that I do get a lot of messages from people that tell me, it's what you do, it's just amazing, and it's inspiring, you know? And when you get these messages, at some point you kind of feel a duty to keep on inspiring. And just now it's my job. Now it's my full-time job to ride bikes, to race in the most difficult, the hardest bikepacking races. And it's my job to be a part of this community, and to be a figure, and to have a voice in this community, and to have a say in what I feel should happen to bikepacking and to competitive bikepacking. And it's just that in having this choice of stepping down or stepping up, my personality is that I'd rather step up. I'd rather say, okay, people are interested in what I do, I'm gonna tell them what I do. I'm gonna tell them what I think, because I think it's much better if, you know, I get out there, I tell my stories, and I get people to ride their bikes.